Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 145 based on novel. So let's start. All of this happened extremely fast. Yao Shishue was still stunned when the three-stroke symbol was completed. At the moment the symbol was completed, the celestial spiritual energy inside Wang Lin's body moved on its own and entered the symbol through his finger. If one just looked at the three-stroke symbol, they would think there was nothing unusual about it, but now that Wang Lin had drawn it stroke by stroke, he felt a sense of perfection from it as if it was some imprint from the heavens. Waves of golden light came from the symbol and lit up the surroundings. The black gas surrounding the platform slowly disappeared under this golden light. Yao Shishue revealed an extremely complex and shocking expression. She had been here several times before, but each time she wasted as little time as possible and used the blood seal her father gave her to not have to deal with them. In a way, she had gotten by through a loophole. Although she noticed those golden symbols and also tried to draw them because she never destroyed the statue, she never absorbed the golden symbol like Wang Lin. As celestial spiritual energy entered the symbol, Wang Lin's index finger couldn't help but pause for a moment. Although his expression was normal, he had a very clear feeling that if he didn't draw the fourth stroke, the perfection of this symbol would be ruined and even collapse. Wang Lin wasn't able to draw the fourth stroke in thin air. His eyes lit up as he pointed at the symbol and suddenly turned around. He flicked the symbol, causing it fly directly at Yao Shishue. Yao Shishue's expression changed and she quickly backed up. At the same time, she took out several blood jades and crashed them one by one before her. With a flash of blood-colored light, layers of blood covered the symbol. This happened extremely fast. The moment the blood touched the symbol, it dissipated, but it did cause the symbol to dim a bit. Yao Shishue continued to retreat as fragrant sweat covered her forehead. She continued to crush blood jades in her hand, and after 7 breaths of time, the golden light was finally completely extinguished by the blood. The symbol disappeared inside the blood-colored light. Yao Shishue's expression was extremely gloomy. Just now she had used 10% of the celestial jades that was supposed to last her hundreds of years. At the moment the symbol was thrown at her, she felt like she was facing someone of her father's generation. Wang Lin. Yao Shishue crushed a blood jade. After the symbol disappeared, she charged directly at the platform toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression was normal. At the moment Yao Shishue closed in, his eyes became cold as he touched his bag of holding to take out the celestial sword and held it before him. He calmly said, "Fellow cultivator Yao, that golden symbol appeared too suddenly for me to control. If you wish to fight me because of it, then I'll entertain you." Yao Shishue's expression was gloomy as a hint of killing intent appeared in her eyes and she thought to herself, since this person has arrived here, he has no chance of survival unless he can break all the seals. If I were to fight with him here, it would be a waste of an opportunity. She coldly said, "Just this once." With that, she jumped over Wang Lin and landed on the revered dragon path to the next platform. Wang Lin put away the celestial jade and leisurely followed. He looked at Yao Shishue before him and his heart was not calm. Just a three-stroke symbol is already so powerful. According to Yao Shishue, there is a total of 18 layers. If every layer has a symbol, that means there is a total of 18 symbols. What will the power of an 18-stroke symbol be? What exactly is this symbol? Could it be a celestial spell? Wang Lin took a deep breath and drew the three-stroke symbol again. Unfortunately, the celestial spiritual energy inside his body didn't move and the symbol disappeared as quickly as it appeared without any of the power from before. Wang Lin frowned slightly and began to ponder. Several days later, the third platform appeared. This time Yao Shishue charged directly at the platform. There was still the same statue on the platform. Instead of having a third eye, it now had a long sword in its hand. Yao Shishue didn't use the seal. This time, she didn't hesitate to use her own abilities to battle the stone statue. Wang Lin coldly observed Yao Shishue. Her spells were all based on blood, and most of the time when she waved her hand, there would be a blood-colored light before the spell appeared. This battle with the statue had no suspense. With Yao Shishue's cultivation, the battle ended after half an incense stick of time. However, although the stone statue collapsed, no golden symbol flew out. Her expression became gloomy as she mercilessly stomped her foot, causing the broken stone statue to shatter to dust. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed and he thought, could it be that only after breaking the restriction on the statue would the symbol fuse into one's body? Yao Shishue didn't even look at Wang Lin as she quickly jumped across the platform and continued to move forward. Time quickly passed, and in the blink of an eye, 1 month passed. During this 1 month of time, Wang Lin had it easy because Yao Shishue didn't give him any opportunities to act. After trying 2 times and not obtaining a golden symbol, she realized that her method was wrong. Thinking back to what Wang Lin did, she gained some understanding. She dreaded the golden symbols a lot, and to prevent Wang Lin from obtaining them, she decided to simply do all the work herself. She didn't break the statues but used the blood jades to seal them. This was the method she used the last 3 times she came here. On this day, after sealing the 11th statue and arriving before the platform containing the 12th statue, Yao Shishue's expression became serious. She looked at Wang Lin and said, "Fellow cultivator Wang, this 12th seal is very different from the previous one and requires the 2 of us to work together to break. This is why I asked you to come." Wang Lin nodded. The platform before them was very different from before. This platform was only half the size of the previous platforms, and there was no stone statue in the middle, only a giant, stone door. Also, there was no other revered dragon path besides the one they were standing on. There were some blurry characters on the stone door. When overlapped with each other, it almost looked like a human face. Both Yao Shishue and Wang Lin landed on the platform. At the same time, the stone door suddenly opened and a cold gust of wind immediately came out. The moment the cold wind appeared, Yao Shishue was covered by a blood-colored light. Wang Lin took several steps back as he touched his bag of holding and took out the restriction flag, which quickly covered his body. As the cold wind blew, crackling sounds came from the restrictions around Wang Lin as layer and layer of ice appeared around the restrictions. Soon, Wang Lin was surrounded by a thick layer of ice. Looking at Yao Shishue, she basically became an ice sculpture, only the ice sculpture was releasing a bright, red light. After the cold wind passed by, white mist came out from the stone gate and immediately condensed into a person. This person was about 30 years old, his expression was cold, he was dressed in white, and his every movement held the aura of a celestial. After he appeared, he coldly looked at the ice sculptures Wang Lin and Yao Shishue were in. Although he didn't open his mouth, a sound still came out. Without a token, no one can enter Master's Cave. The red light from the ice sculpture Yao Shishue was intensified as if there was a heat wave coming from inside it. Waves of white mist came from the ice sculpture, and in almost the blink of an eye, the ice melted and Yao Shishue walked out. "You have come here 3 times and you used the spells of the Blood Lord. I went easy on you 3 times considering you were his descendant and allowed you to use your spell to resurrect yourself, but you are ungrateful. This time, use your resurrection spell and scram out of here now before you have no chance." Although the middle-aged man's voice was calm, it gave off a powerful aura. At this moment, the ice sculpture Wang Lin was in gradually melted. His expression was calm as he coldly looked at the 2 of them. The middle-aged man's gaze was calm. He didn't even look at Wang Lin and only looked at Yao Shishue. Yao Shishue bowed and said, "Senior, since you knew my ancestor, why not let me pass? This cave has been deserted for many years and it would be a waste to just leave it. Why not let Junior have it?" The middle-aged man withdrew his gaze and calmly said, "If you can withstand 3 strikes from my sword, then you're qualified. Are the 2 of you together or separate?" Yao Shishue's eyes lit up and she said, "We will each take 1 strike and then take the last strike together." The middle-aged man's eyes were still calm as he raised his finger, causing a ray of golden light to quickly condense on his fingertip. "First person, come up. If you can withstand it, live, if not, die." Yao Shishue looked toward Wang Lin. "Fellow cultivator Wang." Wang Lin faintly smiled as he took 2 steps back and shook his head. Fellow cultivator Yao's words were false. "I need time to consider." Yao Shishue looked at Wang Lin and said, "What was false? This place doesn't have 18 seals. If there really are seals, then there are only 12. Past this door is the cave." Yao Shishue sneered. She already expected Wang Lin to change his mind at the last moment. She didn't panic at all and said, "Fellow cultivator Wang, there was something I forgot to tell you. I hope you don't mind, but telling you now isn't too late. After entering this place, obtaining the golden mark gives you the qualification to take the trial to enter the cave. However, once you gain the qualification, you must succeed, or else you will die. Whether you believe it or not is up to you." Wang Lin's expression revealed a look of uncertainty before he looked at Yao Shishue with a look of helplessness and wryly smiled. "Fellow cultivator Yao has the blood soul pill, so you naturally aren't worried about this. Good plan." The middle-aged man coldly looked at Yao Shishue and Wang Lin. He didn't show any sign of impatience. Yao Shishue said, "If you can help me enter the cave, you won't have to worry about your life. I'll also give you everything I promised before as well." Wang Lin pondered and said, "Since things are like this now, I will act, but I want to know what exactly this place is." Yao Shishue smiled. "This place was a cave left by a certain celestial. My father obtained this information from a demon emperor by accident. This cave has been deserted for many years, and many of the spells have disappeared with only this cave spirit still remaining. You need to be an ascendant cultivator to withstand all 3 rays of sword energy. Okay, I have told you everything I need to, so, fellow cultivator Wang, please act." Wang Lin said, in a serious tone, "Sword energy only an ascendant cultivator can withstand. I'm only at the mid-stage of soul transformation. Fellow cultivator Yao really gives me a lot of credit." Yao Shishue's expression turned cold and she coldly said, "Wang Lin, if we can't enter the cave, I have the blood soul pill, but you will die for sure." Just at this moment, the middle-aged man who was coldly looking at them suddenly said, "That is right. If you two can't enter the cave, then both of you will die. If you want to live, you have to successfully enter." Wang Lin pondered for a long time before taking a step forward and saying, in a serious tone, "Senior, please go." He raised his finger into the air and the demonic ideals that were suppressed inside him suddenly surged out and immediately filled his body. A thick, black mist came out from his body, and in almost an instant, his entire body was covered by this black mist. In Yao Shishue's eyes, this black mist was demonic spiritual energy. The first thing he did was use the spell he used against the demon general, meaning that he is using his full strength. Exactly as I planned. Yao Shishue had already calculated this. In her eyes, Wang Lin's cultivation was only at the mid-stage of soul transformation. Even though she gave him enough celestial jades, he wouldn't have enough time to increase his cultivation level to the late stage of soul transformation in just 3 days. As a result, even if he withstands the sword energy with his mid-stage soul transformation cultivation, he will be seriously injured and will no longer be a threat. And she was confident she could withstand 2 strikes with the method her father gave her, and that would allow her to meet the requirement set by the cave spirit. The past several times she came here, she tried her best and was able to take 2 strikes, but the last strike was always fatal. The middle-aged man looked at Wang Lin, who was covered in black mist. He didn't say a word as he flicked his finger and a ray of golden light shot out faster than lightning. Wang Lin let out a roar as all the demonic spiritual energy around him gathered at his index finger. In the blink of an eye, all of the demonic spiritual energy around him dissipated and was now condensed on his right index finger. The golden light closed in and collided with his finger. The golden light was like an awl that directly split the demonic spiritual energy apart, but at the same time, the demonic spiritual energy continued to enter the golden light and continued to weaken it. Although the golden light looked normal, it was actually extremely powerful. It broke through the demonic spiritual energy and drilled into Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin coughed out a large mouthful of blood and his body was thrown back by a powerful force. At the same time, there were sounds of things bursting and breaking coming out from his body. The platform wasn't very big, so Wang Lin's body was thrown off it and he fell toward the empty space below. The middle-aged man lowered his head to look at where Wang Lin disappeared before raising his head and slowly saying, "I'll consider that as you breaking the first strike." The second strike is next. With that, he raised his right hand and another ray of golden light condensed on his fingertip. Wang Lin's serious injury was not outside Yao Shishui's expectations. She didn't care about Wang Lin's life, what she cared about was how to enter the cave. What her father said about not getting into a bad relationship with Wang Lin was completely forgotten by her. In truth, in her heart, she thought that Wang Lin's status and cultivation were not enough to be her friend, even if there was something abnormal about him. She spread out her divine sense, and after finding no trace of Wang Lin, the last trace of her suspicion completely vanished. She was about to face the second sword energy from the cave spirit, so she quickly touched her bag of holding and took out a large amount of blood jades. Just at this moment, the middle-aged man flicked the ray of golden light and it charged out like a roaring, golden dragon. The jades in Yao Shishue's hand quickly shattered and a large amount of blood-colored light surrounded the golden dragon. The golden dragon immediately broke through the blood-colored light, and although it dimmed a bit, it was still fierce as it imprinted on Yao Shishue's chest. Yao Shishue's face immediately turned red and she suppressed the blood in her mouth. She took 2 steps back and then looked at the middle-aged man. This was the 4th time she had arrived at the gate. She knew that the blood jades only worked once and would have no effect on the golden light the second time. The first time she came here, she used the blood jades to break through all 11 platforms and thought she would succeed for sure, but the blood jades lost effect on the second sword energy attack. I'll count that as you withstanding the second strike. Now this is the third strike. As the middle-aged man spoke, another ray of golden light gathered at his fingertip. He didn't give her any time to prepare and the golden light flew out. Although Yao Shishue's complexion was ruddy, her heart was very excited. Before, when she reached the third sword energy attack, she would be seriously injured and would have little celestial spiritual energy left, making it impossible for her to resist. But now that Wang Lin had successfully withstood the first attack, she still had lot of celestial spiritual energy left. Although she had some small injuries, it wouldn't affect her using her spell. She was more confident than ever in her ability to withstand the third sword energy. This cave is mine. Yao Shishue took a deep breath and her hand began forming seals. When the golden light closed in, she coughed out a large mouthful of blood. This blood landed on the golden light before she began muttering chants and her hands moved even faster. The golden light was covered by the fresh blood and released some sizzling sounds. The blood seemed to boil and then turned into symbol that stuck to the golden light. The golden light suddenly dimmed, but the blood symbols on it also melted. The golden light charged out directly at Yao Shishue. Yao Shishue took a deep breath and her hand stopped forming seals. Instead, her hand formed after images before stopping before her chest. Shortly after, a circular blood formation appeared in Yao Shishue's hand. At this moment, the golden light closed in and collided with the blood formation on her hand. A muffled bang could be heard as the blood formation collapsed and specks of golden light entered Yao Shishue's body. Yao Shishue wasn't able to control herself, so she coughed out a large mouthful of blood. Her celestial spiritual energy moved like crazy to battle the golden light that had entered her body. Once the golden light enters the body, it causes a lot of damage to the meridians and the flesh. Only by using celestial spiritual energy can it be stopped, as the two neutralize each other. If you and the man from earlier don't die, then that means you are eligible to enter the cave. The middle-aged man's voice was as calm as water. After Yao Shishue heard this, she sat down in the lotus position and focused all her attention on neutralizing the golden light inside her body. She was so focused on what was happening inside her body that she didn't notice the cold eyes that were looking at her. At the most critical moment of her resisting against the golden light, a shadow charged out like a meteor from the void below the platform. This figure was wearing a straw hat, moved as fast as lightning, and arrived on the platform in an instant. He didn't stop at all as he reached out and Yao Shishue's bag of holding flew out. At the same time, his right hand reached out and pointed between Yao Shishue's eyebrows. At this moment, Yao Shishue suddenly opened her eyes and was filled with shock. She wanted to dodge, but she wasn't fast enough, so she watched helplessly as the finger landed between her eyebrows. A destructive force entered her through the spot between her eyebrows and moved through her meridians, destroying them along the way. At the same time, the small remaining amount of celestial spiritual energy in her body was scattered by this destructive force. Thanks to this and the force of the sword energy from the attack just now, Yao Shishue coughed out blood and was thrown back 30 feet. When she landed on the ground, a strand of grey gas appeared between her eyebrows, transformed into the life seal, and surrounded her entire body. Yao Shishue couldn't control the blood coming out of the corners of her mouth as she shouted, with all her might, "Wang Lin! Want to die? Not that easy." A cold voice came from the figure. The slender figure took off the straw hat. It was Wang Lin. The shock in Yao Shishue's eyes was extremely strong. Wang Lin's appearance was completely outside her expectations. Even if he was alive, he should have still been seriously injured and not have appeared here like this. Also, she had spread out her divine sense earlier and found no trace of him. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he looked at Yao Shishue. Everything that happened was secretly planned by him. From the moment he found out this was the last platform, he began planning. He risked using the demonic ideal to completely fool Yao Shishue into believing he was using his full strength. Then at the moment the sword energy entered his body, he shattered the celestial crystal inside his body without any hesitation. He spent 3 days back in the army camp converting 1/3 of the celestial jades he had gotten from Yao Shishue into a celestial crystal to create an unexpected circumstance. When the celestial crystal shattered, a large amount of celestial spiritual energy was released. Normally, when this much celestial spiritual energy was released, he would have to sit down to cultivate, and if he messed up even a bit, his meridians would be damaged by the large amount of celestial spiritual energy. However, when the sword energy entered his body, the celestial spiritual energy did a really good job of neutralizing the sword energy. Then he immediately acted according to his plan and put on the straw hat that YunQZ gave him before sneaking back to the platform. This straw hat contained a large amount of restrictions, and considering YunQZ was a mid-stage ascendant cultivator, his treasures were naturally very powerful. The effect of this straw hat was to hide divine sense, and Wang Lin had used it many times before to great effects. Unless the other person has reached the ascendant stage, there is no way for them to notice him. How could Yao Shishue know any of this? Wang Lin held Yao Shishue's bag of holding and calmly said, "Fellow cultivator Yao, we meet again." Although he was talking to Yao Shishue, his gaze swept toward the middle-aged man in front of the stone door. The middle-aged man's gaze was still calm, it was as if everything before him didn't exist. Yao Shishue gritted her teeth and said, "You despicable." Wang Lin faintly smiled. There were many people that cursed him, but the winner was right and the loser was wrong. This was the rule of the cultivation world, and Wang Lin has always remembered it. He smiled. "Fellow cultivator Yao gave me a fake pill and concealed the danger of entering here. I'm just getting a little revenge, there is no need to praise me so. If my father, the blood ancestor, finds out about this, you will be dead for sure even if you are a disciple of the All-Seer. Also, I activated a blood soul pill before I came here." Yao Shishue's face was very pale without any trace of blood. "Why would I kill you when you have blood soul pills to revive yourself? In order to use it, you must die first, so I'll use a spell to seal your entire body. Now that you have no celestial spiritual energy left inside your body, I want to see how you will die." Wang Lin let out a smile, and within that smile was a hint of darkness. Yao Shishue's face was pale and her body had no strength. It was as Wang Lin said, she had no celestial spiritual energy left in her body and her meridians had been shattered. Normally, she would die with her body like this, but the seal on her body keeps sending out waves of life force to keep her alive, trapping her in this cycle of being between life and death. Her life and death were stuck in this cycle. "I only need to seal you in a place so you can endure thousands of years of loneliness while being stuck between life and death but unable to die. Even if you were to try to bite off your tongue to kill yourself, it wouldn't be possible with the seal on your forehead stopping you. I want to see how you will revive with the blood soul pill." Wang Lin's voice was calm, and when it landed in Yao Shishue's ears, it made her expression change greatly. As Wang Lin spoke those words, he couldn't help but think back to planet Suzaku when his cultivation was destroyed by the giant demon clan ancestor and the cultivator of Shui Yu. After he became a waste, he ended up being thrown into a water prison by bandits. There, he found the skeleton of a female that had been sealed for an unknown amount of time. Wang Lin thought to himself, there is a cycle to everything in this world. He took a few steps forward and stood before Yao Shishue. Then his hand reached out toward her ample chest. Yao Shishue bit her lip and her eyes revealed thick killing intent and humiliation. This gaze meant nothing to Wang Lin as his hand reached in between her breasts. As he searched, he immediately felt the softness of her body. It has to be said that Yao Shishue was a rare beauty, and her status was also something that attracted people. She was the daughter of the blood ancestor, so normally she was high above everyone, but today she fell here. Wang Lin revealed a smile that was not a smile as he squeezed her soft chest, and when he took his hand back out, he was holding 3 bags of holding. The humiliation in her eyes was strong as she stared at Wang Lin, gnashing her teeth. She has cultivated for many years and kept her virgin body. She had never had such intimate contact with a man before. After putting away the bags of holding, he said, "Fellow cultivation Yao, how about we make a deal?" Yao Shishue stared at Wang Lin and didn't say a word. Wang Lin faintly smiled. "I intend to seal you until your lifespan runs out, but there is a 500-year time limit in this demon spirit land. So I'll ask you questions and take off 50 years for every question you answer. How about it?" Yao Shishue took a deep breath and pondered for a bit. Then she coldly asked, "How do I know if you're speaking the truth?" Wang Lin chuckled and said, "You don't have to respond." Yao Shishue coldly looked at Wang Lin and snorted. "Ask. If you lie, although I might now know it now, I will in the future. At that point, don't blame me for not coming to release you from your seal. The first question, why are you so intent on entering this cave?" Wang Lin's question was ingenious, as it covered a lot of things. Yao Shishue turned her head to look at the stone door. The middle-aged man under the stone door still had a calm expression. "I just want to enter, there is no reason. You brought this upon yourself." Wang Lin's eyes became cold and his hand formed seals, creating restrictions that fell on the ground to create a restriction circle. As time passed by, Wang Lin created more and more restrictions, and the restriction circle on the ground started giving off a black light. After doing all this, Wang Lin grabbed Yao Shishue and threw her into the circle. His right hand formed a seal and he softly said, "Seal." With one word, the restriction circle quickly shrank and surrounded Yao Shishue. In almost an instant, it formed a restriction sphere. Wang Lin waved his hand, causing the ball to shrink and fly into his bag of holding. After doing all of this, Wang Lin turned toward the middle-aged man before the stone door and said, "Do I have the qualifications to enter?" The middle-aged man's expression was still calm as he slowly said, "The two of you withstood the 3 sword energy attacks together, so you naturally are qualified to enter. However, everything inside the cave has been sealed by Master, so if you can't open the seal, it is useless." Wang Lin didn't rush in but pondered a bit and asked, "What cave is this?" "Master's cave." "Who is your master?" "Master is master." "What do you mean who is master?" Wang Lin looked at the middle-aged man. After pondering a bit, he asked, "What were the golden symbols from the 11 platforms before this?" The middle-aged man slowly said, "A guarding spell, but after Master sealed the cave, there was no longer a central control, so the guardians lost a lot of their power. Otherwise, the two of you wouldn't have been able to reach here." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he asked, "If someone else can withstand 3 sword energy attacks while I'm inside, will they also be allowed into the cave?" "If you can break a seal inside the cave, you will obtain the right to enter the cave. After that, the cave will automatically seal and not allow anyone else inside unless you are dead." Wang Lin asked again, "This cave has existed for countless years, has anyone else entered here before?" "Yes, but they are all dead." "How do I leave this place?" "Break 1 seal and you will be able to leave." Wang Lin pondered. He knew that if he were to ask more, the cave spirit wouldn't really say more. After pondering a bit, he stopped asking questions and walked into the stone door. What appeared before Wang Lin after entering the stone door were groups of palaces much like the royal palace of a mortal king. He appeared right at the front door of a palace. A faint celestial spiritual energy surrounded the area. He took a deep breath and immediately felt refreshed. Then he took a step forward but immediately lowered his head to look at the ground. The ground was paved with green stones and was extremely flat. Wang Lin squatted down to touch the ground with his hand and his expression immediately turned strange. Celestial Jade. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and he immediately found that the surrounding area was surrounded in sealing restrictions. His divine sense withdrew at almost the instant he spread it out. All of the buildings here are made of celestial jade. Wang Lin was very sensitive to celestial jade, and now that everything before him was made of it, he couldn't help but take a deep breath. Unfortunately, there are very powerful seals on them all. Otherwise, I would have definitely dug all of them out. Wang Lin looked at the celestial jade road with a look of pity. There was a giant pill furnace about 100 feet before him. There were some holes the thickness of his arm on the pill furnace and bursts of white smoke came out from them. Several hundred feet past the pill furnace was a 3-story loft. Wang Lin walked forward, stopped next to the pill furnace and looked inside the holes. There was a puddle of water at the bottom of the furnace, and the white smoke was coming out from this puddle of water. I'm not the first person to enter this place. Perhaps there were pills inside this pill furnace before and they were taken by someone. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed as he looked at the pill furnace. There was a restriction seal on it, but it was in a broken state. It had obviously been broken by someone long ago. After carefully looking around, Wang Lin walked toward the loft. He stopped before the loft and looked at it. The loft was sealed, and there was even a seal on each of the 3 steps leading up to it. This is an all-in-one seal. Once the restriction activates, it can make everything inside and outside the loft into a restriction and seal the whole loft. This method of sealing was even very rare in ancient times. According to some of the books I've read, it is recorded that this method came from the celestial realm and is referred to as celestial restrictions. Wang Lin looked around and muttered, "This cave is filled with celestial restrictions. Could this really be the cave of a certain celestial?" While thinking about this, Wang Lin became even more cautious. Although the restrictions on the loft before him had already been broken by someone, he would only take a step after carefully checking his surroundings. The loft had 3 floors, and Wang Lin would only take a step up after careful observation. Although this took a lot of time, it allowed Wang Lin to clearly see through all the restrictions inside the loft. This loft was completely empty, not even a table or chair remained. If it wasn't for markings on the ground showing that there were chairs and tables before, Wang Lin wouldn't have thought that they were taken by someone. Wang Lin mocked himself. Even the chairs and tables in the cave of a celestial must not be normal, so it is within reason that they be taken. This 3-floor loft was completely empty. Wang Lin found absolutely nothing inside, and all the restrictions had already been broken. However, as he looked closer, he found that these restrictions weren't all broken by the same person. There were at least 3 different methods used. One of the methods used ancient restrictions and was extremely subtle. The restrictions broken this way would scatter into the form of a plum blossom. Wang Lin had seen this method before on some ancient records. It was called the 18 plum blossom restriction. A majority of the restrictions here were broken with this method. It was clearly done by the same person. This restriction was very famous in the ancient cultivation world, but it was something very few people could learn. Even disciples could only learn so much depending on their status. At most a disciple could only learn up to 9 restrictions. Only the sect master could learn up to 18 restrictions. Just as he was about to leave, Wang Lin's eyes suddenly narrowed. He looked at the markings on the ground that showed that the tables and chairs were moved. This video will end here.